The Harrier EV. We know that it can climb a mountain, we know that it can jump over other Harrier EVs, we know how much it costs, and we know it can summon itself at the press of a button. But the one thing we don't know is how it drives. So let's cut straight to the chase. Powered by two electric motors making over 300 horses, the Harrier EV spec sheet sounds far from Tata's of old, and it gets all-wheel drive, making a comeback in Tata's lineup for the first time since 2019. But this is 2025, and if the Harrier's brilliant chassis ever needed anything over the last few years, it was more performance. Thankfully, this EV takes care of exactly that. I will be honest though, I expected it to be a little bit faster and snappier off the line in the city and the sport modes, but when you put it into boost mode, it feels genuinely very, very fast. I mean, 120, 130 comes up very quickly. It's surprising, to be honest, that such a big SUV moves so quickly. And then I'm happy to report that on the deceleration side of things, firstly, the regen is both adjustable and predictable, and the brakes do a great job of bringing this SUV to a halt. Thanks to a new multi-link rear suspension with frequency selective damping, the chassis and suspension setup underneath is even more capable than ever before. It does a great job of masking the Harrier EV's over 2.3 ton weight, and even though you're always aware that this is a big SUV, it handles bumps and potholes very comfortably. Of course, with all-wheel drive and an updated suspension setup also comes more capability. Granted, we drove it off-road on a pretty small closed course that is designed for the Harrier EV with little to no real-world applications for most buyers. But where the all-wheel drive will come into play in the real world is just giving you more confidence on stuff like wet highways or snow-covered mountain passes, or just taking slushy detours around NPC traffic in the city. Speaking of peace of mind, let's talk about anxiety of the range kind, because ARAI claims 622 kilometers for this 75 kilowatt hour all-wheel drive variant, but since it is on our unique test cycle that those kilometers were got, the real-world estimate is closer to 450 kilometers. But that figure, to be honest, is not far from Tata's claimed C75 figure of between 460 to 490 kilometers that they predict most users will be able to get. So then, the Harrier EV is very fast, very comfortable, has enough range for short to medium road trips, and it can do a little bit of off-roading as well. But this being a new SUV from Tata Motors, we need to stop and talk about the electronics. Like our country's roads after paying hundreds of crores in tax, the Harrier EV is flooded with features. There's a new QLED display from Samsung, a new electronic architecture called Tidal, a new JBL sound system with Dolby Atmos, a 540-degree camera system, 65-watt USB-C charging, and so much more. If I were to review everything in here, I really feel we'll be here till evening. So let's stick to what's good, what's not, and what's important. We'll start with the screen. This is a new Samsung QLED screen. It's got great color reproduction, great contrast. It's actually pretty responsive and has been, I would say, largely glitch-free throughout the day. We faced like one glitch where the screen went green for a second, and that's about it. And yes, sometimes this row of buttons at the top where it's the navigation buttons to go home or go back, those disappeared for a couple of seconds, but then they came back. So I would say largely glitch free. Next up is this IRVM, that's also a camera. This actually works really well. I used it for the first half of the day, and then I switched it off and used it as a normal mirror, and I actually preferred using the camera. It's just pretty much no lag on this, so you can trust it, you can rely on it as a driver. The only tip I would give you is to not adjust it as if it was an actual mirror. If you're using it as a camera, tilt it towards yourself, because that way the reflection that comes onto this is yourself, and your brain does not confuse it with other traffic. If you adjust it to be as if it's an actual mirror and then you switch on the camera, then you will see the reflection of the car in the mirror and then also the image of the car in the camera, and then it just confuses your brain. So yeah, that. We'll quickly move on to the instrument cluster, which is the same as it has been on other Tata Motors models, and that means that same concern of having really small font on such a nice big colorful screen is just, I feel Tata Motors really needs to work on the UI over here. The quality of the cameras is next, and this I'm very happy to report that the cameras are actually very good quality, very high definition. There's a multitude of views, and Tata Motors is calling this 540-degree views, and genuinely, I mean, there is a mode to view the car in any angle, and you can set it up to warn you if you're coming close to a curb and stuff. Now finally, I just want to add a suggestion to this entire features bit, and the suggestion is actually for Tata Motors. I would keep the features just to a point where they can make sure those features work every single time, and just in case they don't work, the after sales staff is equipped and trained enough for those features to be fixed. If your pick of seats is the rear, I'm happy to report that it is comfortable with ample knee room and headroom for anyone below 6 feet and boss mode controls for anyone over 6 feet. Just make sure that the person sitting in the front is either freakishly small or has a great sense of humor. But seriously, the Harrier EV is Tata's best foot forward. It doesn't feel fast fashion like some of its rivals, and though the electronics can be iffy, we faced almost no niggles whatsoever today. The price is good too, starting at just above 21 lakh rupees for the rear-wheel drive versions and going up to 30 lakh rupees ex-showroom for the top spec all-wheel drive version. So then, the big concerns in my eyes are only two actually. Firstly, it's Tata's slightly questionable reputation for after-sales service, and secondly is the longevity of the electronics on the inside, because aside from those two possible deal breakers, this is actually an electric SUV that is really well kitted out and can be your daily driver today. It's fast, it charges fast, it's comfortable, it seats 5, and yes, the advertised range might be far from the actual real-world range, but it is still ample for day-to-day driving and for short to medium road trips as well. Plus, on the inside, you have level 2 ADAS, you have 7 airbags, you have built-in dash cam, so it should be safe as well. So it turns out that Tata's biggest competition right now is actually Tata themselves.
Something like a library, all I see is paper. All this money, I'ma count it all.
Welcome to the Harrier EV, finally getting to drive it. And if I'm honest, I've actually really loved the Harrier ever since I first drove it. Over the years, that diesel engine sort of started to show its age, while everything else was like turbo petrol and DCT gearboxes. That diesel engine with its torque converter automatic just started to feel old. Thankfully, the Harrier EV just sorts pretty much all of those problems, of course, with its EV drivetrain. One thing I feel is that the weight is a bit of a problem for this. Like, when you weave, like the car is almost like one turn behind the weave. And in fact, even when you floor it, it takes a bit of a second to pick up speed, and then it takes a bit of a second to shed speed. So it does feel heavy. Even going through bumps and potholes, you feel the weight of the car going up and down. So I feel it doesn't feel light on its feet, and it doesn't feel like an agile SUV, but honestly on the highway, just like the Harrier did all those years back, it feels like you can just sit on the highway at 85, 90, 100, 110 kilometers per hour and just keep driving all day long. These seats are super comfortable. I would have liked adjustable thigh support, like just having the base of the seat rise up to get you more thigh support would have been a nice addition, but that's not there. But even without that, these seats are very comfortable. The driving position is nice and tall. But there are quite a few things I actually like that Tata Motors has added onto the Harrier EV. Firstly, the blind spot monitor is interchangeable now. So if you want it on the screen, which I don't know why you would want it on the screen, you can have it on the screen or you can have it on the instrument cluster, which I think is great that they're giving you the choice to do that, but I would keep it on the instrument cluster. The second thing is they have a button here that is called silent mode. And one of the complaints we've had with Tata Motors' recent cars is there are too many bings and bongs. Like pretty much as soon as you get in, there's a ting, tung, like something is just going off all the time. That silent mode takes care of all of that at once. I think it's a really good addition. From what I believe, like it's an update, and most other Tata EVs and Tata Motors cars will also get this, at least the ones that get an OTA update. I believe the Curve EV already has the same feature. Couple niggles here. Firstly, I hate, and I've said this before, I hate these touch sensitive controls all here. I mean, there's everything here from accessing the 360-degree camera to the off-road cruise control to opening the boot. All of it is touch sensitive, and these are all pretty serious controls which I would not want to be touch sensitive, and so are the air conditioning controls. So this is a thumbs down and has been a thumbs down in many Tata Motors cars from before. One more thumbs down is the fact that my knee still touches the dashboard. It's been a problem in the Harrier since the very start, and if you are a tall person, I'm sad to report that your knee will still be touching the dashboard of the Harrier, and that's not a very comfortable thing. Next, we have the terrain mode dial here, and it covers all the terrain modes, which is fine. But then the sport driving mode and the boost mode are buttons around the terrain mode, and even if I put it in, for example, if I put it in sport mode,
drive mode activated.
Thank you. Oh, nice Range Rover ahead. If I put it into sport drive mode and then the terrain mode still says normal, so I think it's a bit confusing. I would like it if the terrain modes and the driving modes were all in a single dial. The Harrier EV, a pretty interesting product from Tata Motors, very nice to drive, and I'm looking forward to spending some more time with it and figuring out what it's like to live with in the long term. Thank you for watching PowerDrift and sticking around for the extended cut.